Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers had a strong closing performance against Arizona State in the CFP, but it wasn't enough to earn the highest grade for the quarterbacks for the 2025 NFL Draft class. We'll explain that and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydays. You know I got to kick the intro to Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at TheTalentCode. Keep talking to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ, man, and the other side to this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to start this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listener is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft DP. We're talking college football playoff recap. We had 4 games. We're going to talk about grading the QB prospects from the college football players. We're going to talk about money makers and bag fumblers. And then, yes, you're getting that appearance. Coach K, Coach DP, hopping in the locker room, passing out a game ball. DP, let's get this thing started.
This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Grading the quarterback prospects from the second round of the CFP. Keith, let's start with Quinn Ewers, quarterback from Texas. Keith, I gave him a B. He played a pretty solid game, came up big in the clutch late in the fourth quarter into overtime to win a game that I didn't think they were going to even have to be in overtime for, the way it kind of started out for him. He was 20 of 30, 322 yards passing. He had 3 passing touchdowns, 1 interception. He also had the 1 rushing touchdown. So he accounted for 4 total touchdowns on the day. I give him a B, man. Like the late game heroics from him, identifying coverage, throwing with accuracy, making the right decisions late when the game was on the line was big. The reason why it's not higher for me, you went like 2.5 quarters without scoring against the Arizona State defense that didn't have their best defensive back. You got all of the weapons that you have. You didn't miss anybody. It just was not taking control of the game. Same thing. If Quinn Ewers can play consistent for 4 quarters, he would be a first-round prospect for me because he does have accuracy and ball placement. He does play from the neck up from time to time. Not taking control of games when the game is within reach of you putting a stranglehold on. Same thing with Texas. With the SEC championship game, you allowed Georgia to stick around. Georgia won. You allow Arizona State to stick around. The 14 points that they had in the first quarter, 7 of that came from a punt return. You had the fire drive, that 2-play touchdown drive on your first drive, and after that you sputtered for like almost 2.5, almost 3 quarters until the fourth quarter. Big ending to the game. What he was able to do, him and our guy Matthew Golden connecting and just dominating that secondary. I give him a B, man. He played good enough to win this game, but you can't play like this going against Ohio State.
Yeah, the last statement you made, he played good enough to win this game, is where I'm kind of going to land at, and I'm going to give him a C+. Because of everything in between the first 10 minutes of the first quarter and overtime, right? And it was relatively nothing. And that interception that he threw, I think he was trying to push the ball vertical to Matthew Golden, I believe, taking a shot, and it was kind of like in double coverage. I don't know if he was trying to fit it in between 2 safeties, right? And both of them had an opportunity, like if he was trying to thread the needle on like a skinny post or something, right? I felt like it wasn't great ball placement, but just not being able to string it all together, DP, consistently throughout the game almost gave you an opportunity to be the biggest upset of the entire college football playoffs and probably bowl games, right? Because Arizona State was the one, I guess, of teams that quote unquote didn't belong, right? Like small school, not traditional I guess you can kind of say that, yeah, not traditional football powerhouses. They were the one team that hung in there, right, and made it a real football game, and they were down already. So, you gave Arizona State an opportunity to come back. So I have to give Quinn a C plus on it. I do think he's instinctual. He has instincts. It's just something with the consistency. I said it on this podcast. I'll say it again. I would not be surprised if he was a better pro. Because of the situation that he's in, obviously with Arch right behind him, and I feel like there's a lack of a trust factor there. But definitely a C plus.
That deep ball has to improve. Like he throws these rainbows, he underthrows so many deep shots. I'm like, man, with the speed you have, just anticipate. Like, you know, I mean, it's the same thing for me when I look at Bryce and Mac Jones and Tua. They may not have the greatest arms, but they anticipate when guys are getting open vertically and they get it out. So get it out in front of your guys. Let them run underneath it. He's got to stop underthrowing the deep ball because, Keith, I think either the interception happened on the underthrown deep ball or he had one almost intercepted on an underneath deep ball. He's got to stop underthrowing those deep balls because he's leaving points on the field.
Yep, 100%.
Now, next up, Keith, Will Howard from Ohio State. Keith, another big Ohio State is like rolling offensively right now, and I don't know. They look like the scariest offense in the CFP. They are the scariest offense in the CFP right now. Put up 41 points against a talented Oregon defense. He was 17 of 26, 319, 3 passing touchdowns. Keith, I give him a B plus, man. Some of it is scheme where you're just like getting the ball to Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka underneath and letting them make yards after the catch. But he had a couple dots, like the one on the 7 route to Jeremiah Smith when he mossed 2 Oregon defenders. The ball placement to put it helmet higher, but also put it between 2 defenders where they couldn't go get the ball. It's like understanding, like, you know, you see those point guards who know my guy that's running the rim can jump higher than your guy. So I'm going to put it where my guy can get it. And he understood that, and I appreciated that throw. He has good arm talent, good ball placement on throws, and, of course, be able to use his legs to navigate and move around the pocket. He's playing – this is the most confident stretch I've seen him play all season. And that's what makes this team dangerous. Because when you have Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Emeka Egbuka, Travion Henderson, and those guys, when you have that cast of characters and supporting cast, if your quarterback's playing good ball, it's almost unstoppable when you look at it, man. So I give him a B plus. He did well. He made the right throws. He made the right reads. He didn't put the ball in harm's way. He didn't turn the ball over. He played a good game.
Yeah, I'm gonna go B plus too. And not giving him an A because obviously Jeremiah Smith is Jeremiah Smith, right? Emeka is Emeka. But he made the throw. He was willing to rip it. Gave the chances. You see the big arm. You see the athleticism that he has. Jumped out on Oregon, right? And the game was over.
Yep.
The game was over after the first quarter. It was like they put it out of distance to where it's like there's no coming back from this, right?
No.
Like you can't recover from this. And so yeah, I put it at a B plus too. I think he's playing really good football. Recovered. It was kind of a revenge game against Oregon. He came out there swinging.
No, he did. He did. Keith, next up, Riley Leonard from Notre Dame. Notre Dame got the big upset over Georgia, 23-10. Riley Leonard was 15 of 24 passing, only 90 yards passing. He did have that red zone touchdown off a turnover, but he added 14 carries for 80 yards. I give him a B minus overall. Like he did similar to Quinn Ewers. He did what was needed to be done for your team to win. Like wasn't able to throw for 300 gaudy yards or anything like that. But those 80 yards on the ground were pivotal in this game, right? Being able to keep them ahead of the chains. He had a couple like 15, 20 leave. I think he had a 33-yard run. His athleticism played a big difference maker for their offense because they couldn't get the run game going. They couldn't get Jeremiah Love going. Couldn't get, I think it's Jadarian Price going. Their running backs were held under wraps. His ability to run the ball played a big part in this game. I give him like a B minus, C plus B minus. He didn't throw the ball. I mean, it's not that he didn't throw it well. They couldn't protect. Like they really couldn't do much with that defensive line. And he doesn't have a great cast of pass catchers, but he did more than enough to win this game. I give him a B minus.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna go with a C minus, DP. And the reason I go there is because I know he had probably like a couple runs, right? Like the one, it was the one explosive run that put them in position to go up. Was it 10-3 or 6-3? Right? Like he had an explosive run. Yeah, and so I give him credit for being able to run the football, but passing, it just wasn't there. And it reminded me of kind of Duke Riley Leonard, right? Because I know there were, conversations that obviously he was taking steps forward, taking strides forward as a passer. But I thought in that game, it looked like Duke Riley Leonard, where I'm gonna run around, scramble a little bit, and then make a couple plays to pick up a couple first downs, right? Now I give him credit for winning the game, doing what needs to be done, but we know that I guess grading quarterbacks, right? It's a twofold thing. It's running the football, but also throwing the football. So I'm gonna look at that and just I thought he did what needed to be done. But I don't know how much I'm just going to rely on that from Riley Leonard. So I'll give him a C-, but give him all the credit in the world for winning the game, gritting it out. You could tell he's a tough kid, gritty, like all of that stuff. So I'll give him a C- though.
Yeah. Lastly, Keith, I give Dylan Gabriel a C. Ohio State jumped him. Like Ohio State jumped from behind the car, punched him in the face, and they never recovered. They didn't know what to do after those first couple scores. And the run game wasn't there because Jordan James got hurt in this game. And when it was put all on Dylan Gabriel, he's not a quarterback that you look at as a truck. He's more of a hitch type of quarterback. He's still a good quarterback. I give him a C. He didn't play terrible. I don't think he turned the ball over in this game either. But when you're down and you got to throw and it's true drop back sets, it's not the RPO and play action. That's when things look a little different for quarterbacks like that. And in this situation, you lose 41-21. Like they beat you by almost three touchdowns, if not three, almost 3 touchdowns, almost 3 scores. So I give him a C overall.
Yeah, I'm going C too, DP. I'll give him that exact grade. It's hard to even look at it in context when when you're down 28-0 or something close to that, right? Immediately.
Yeah.
And then how do you respond? And then it looked like he tried to get it going. But when you put in a position to where you have to throw it every down, the defense knows what you're doing, right? And you're trying to make plays. Now, the thing is that I would have liked him to make more scrambling plays, right? Like kind of, pick up the first down with his legs or scramble from 1st and 10 and make it 2nd and 2, things like that, right? Just let it look a little bit calm at times. And it was hectic for him, right? Because it's a very good Ohio State team, but it looked very hectic, right? Like he was herky-jerky out there. But I give him a C too. He made some plays, like they had the 2-point conversion, drove the football a couple times after they got jumped on. Just a difficult situation for a quarterback, but difficult situation period, and just grading him in a vacuum, I give it a C.
Nah, man, I think that's the quarterback grades, Keith. But guys, coming up next, man, we grade the quarterbacks. Now it's time to get into those money makers, bag fumblers. Keith, stock up, stock down. Who helped themselves? Who hurt themselves? We'll talk about that coming up next. It's playoff time. And if you're like me, you want to make the most of these final weeks of football action. That's where Prize Picks comes in. If you love football and want a chance to win real money while watching the games, Prize Picks is the place for you. It's the best way to turn your sports opinions into cash with daily fantasy player projections. With Prize Picks, you simply pick more or less on player stats, like total passing yards or rushing touchdowns, and for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your money. You can make your picks in less than 60 seconds, and whether you're looking for a flex play to boost your payout or want to cash out quickly, Prize Picks has got you covered. And with over 10 million members and billions in winnings, it's clear that people are loving this platform. Here's a special offer for Locked On NFL listeners. Download the app today and use the code Locked On NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Guys, after you play your first $5 lineup, after using the code Locked On NFL, you get $50 instantly. That's Prize Picks. Run your game. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What do you want your 2025 story to be? Every January brings a new chapter, 365 blank pages waiting for you to fill. If there's a part of your life you want to rewrite or a plot twist you've been craving, why wait? Life isn't about fleeting resolutions. It's about taking control and becoming the author of your own story. Think of therapy as your personal editor, helping you craft the life you deserve. It's not just for crisis situations. Therapy can help you develop healthier coping strategies, improve your relationships, and empower you to be the best version of yourself. Whether you're facing a challenge or just looking for personal growth, therapy is a powerful tool to help guide your journey. Whether it's learning how to set new boundaries or tackle stress in new ways, therapy can help you develop skills for a better tomorrow. Even if you've never tried therapy, the benefits are clear. Finding someone to talk to and getting fresh perspectives can make all the difference in how you navigate life's ups and downs. Write your story with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOn today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOn. Money makers and bag fumblers, Keith. I mean, where else should we start than the man himself, Cam Skattebo? 30 carries, 143 yards rushing on the day. He had 3 total touchdowns. He had a 43 or 44-yard passing touchdown, off a RB pass, but he also had a big, deep, explosive off a double move at that. You know what I mean? Like he kind of sold a little stutter and go on the go ball. And he caught the ball down the field. Like this was a performance where you're without Jordan Tyson, your number one receiver. It's literally on you. Sam Levitt is a solid young quarterback who's got some potential, but it was all on Cam Skattebo to be able to get this team and this offense going. He's like letting the coaches know he does not like what's going on the side on the field. He's not really agreeing with some of the calls and the run block and the protection, different things like that. And he lit a fire under his team and he put them on his back. And honestly, they almost came out with the win in this game. If they could have got that defensive stop and not have that busted coverage with Matthew Golden on the post route, don't know what the safeties were doing there. But the fact of the matter is you end up losing this game. Cam Skattebo was the reason you were back in it and the reason you almost won it. This dude, to me, Keith, coming into this game, he's going to be a day 3 pick or a day 3 graded guy. Again, positional value, he's going to play a big part in everything. But just as a prospect, he was going to come in graded 4th round. Some people might have him as a 5th round. After that performance and what he was able to do, I think he's probably going to work himself into a grade as a back end of the 3rd round type of guy. Listen, I think I can't remember which national analyst tweeted. I was like, listen, I talked to some scouts. They said they don't care how he tests. They just want this guy on their football team. They want him in their running back room, and I don't blame them.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like that's what's going to happen, right? That he's just going to be drafted as a football player. And I think I seen, they're talking about, oh, he could play fullback, he can be on your special teams, he can do whatever, just put him out there. I agree with that 100%. Just his will to win, right? His will to not quit. And you've seen him frustrated early on in the game when he didn't have the holes, and it was just like, hey, bro, Texas is a good football team. I don't know if you know that, right? Like it's not what you used to going up against, but he found other ways to help his team, right? Catching the football, throwing the football, things like that. And then when it was time for him to run the football in short goal line situations, once they had momentum, he pounded it in there. So I'm right there with you, Cam Skattebo, definitely a stock-up guy.
Keith, another guy for me that made some money was Donovan Jackson. Donovan Jackson started this season out as the left guard for Ohio State. Josh Simmons go down, they kick him over the tackle to the left tackle spot. And the game against, Abdul Carter, that was the one that we were all kind of like, I don't know if this is going to work out with him playing tackle and having to deal with that type of speed and everything else. And yeah, he struggled against, Abdul Carter is probably the most explosive and best true pass rusher in college football, right? Or especially in the draft. And that was the last game he gave up a sack. Like he has not given up a sack since week 10, and he's played 5 to 6 games. He's played James Pierce and Oregon and Michigan. He's not giving up a sack, and he pitched basically a shutout against Oregon. 0 sacks, 0 hits, 0 hurries, 0 pressures for a 6'4", 320-pound guard playing tackle from Ohio State. Donovan Jackson made himself some money because now the conversation is going to kind of pivot for him as a draft prospect. For teams that say, listen, we need a tackle, and it's like, well, he can kind of play both. And that increases the more you can do. I've been saying it for years now. The more you can do as a prospect is always a good thing. So for teams that need a guard, he could play guard. That's his natural position. But teams that need tackle and they're good at guard and they're at the top of the 2nd round, I wouldn't be shocked if a team drafted Donovan Jackson from Ohio State at tackle, Keith, because he's proven that he can play it and play at a good enough level.
Yeah, you wonder if he's going to put himself in the same conversation with Graham Barton, Peter Skoronski, right? Like those two guys who is like, man, you know what? They might be able to play anywhere along the offensive line, which if you're an NFL team drafting, you feel like it's a really good situation because if you need an offensive lineman, you want a guy that can be able to plug and play, but also as injuries happen, you can kick them in and out. Like, and just look at Georgia, right? Georgia's probably a left tackle away from not giving up 17 points in a minute and 10 seconds, right? Like it just snowballed on them, that situation. But yeah, I'm with you on Donovan Jackson, another stock-up guy. I'm gonna bring his name up again because I'm starting to see him really get a lot of national media attention. And I mean, he's first one to talk about him, Matthew Golden. Like, it's just, again, this guy's gonna creep up into top 50s. Some people probably want to start putting him in the first round of mock drafts. The guy has the goods, and I've been saying this for a while, but I'm glad he's starting to get the national recognition. But that's why you tap into Locked On, because we do the work over here, right? We identify these guys early. We watch the film, and kind of ahead of the media trend. We do the work over here. So Matthew Golden, definitely 7 catches, 149 yards on 10 targets. He's clearly, we said this a couple podcasts ago, a couple weeks ago, that he was emerging as their number 1 wide receiver. He's clearly their number 1 wide receiver now.
No, without question. That's the guy in big time moments. That's who Quinn Ewers is looking for, man. He tried, I think he had a pass or two. He tried to get it deep down the field to Isaiah Bond, who's like been dealing with a nagging injury and everything the last probably month of the season. But it's been Matthew Golden. Like, that's the guy he trusts. That's the guy he's going, like. And the crazy thing, Matthew Golden is not 6'3", 215 pounds, guys. But he still throws those type of passes to Matthew Golden. Those back shoulder fades, those jump balls. Like, he throws those passes to him because he trusts him to come down with it. So, no, I like that. I like that call out, Keith. A guy in terms of, like, fumbling the bag, I got to go to back to that Ohio State matchup, Keith, and that's Johnny Cornelius, the tackle, the right tackle. For Oregon, man. He struggled in this game. While Donovan Jackson pitched a shutout, or Johnny Cornelius struggled. In this game, he allowed 6 pressures, 4 hurries, 1 QB hit, and he allowed a sack in this game. They were able to, like, and from, you look at the numbers, even watching the game, JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer had success getting in the backfield on passing downs against Dylan Gabriel. Most of that, if I remember correctly, came against a Johnny Cornelius. Like, they was kind of rotating flip sides, and whoever was against a Johnny had success. They didn't have much success against They didn't have any success against Donovan Jackson, but a Johnny Cornelius, who's the natural tackle of the two, is the guy that struggled. I think this was an opportunity for him to help stamp himself for the 2025 NFL draft class as an early day 2 selection, because there's a lot of teams that still need tackle help in the league, Keith. And he didn't help himself. He had a rough game against a talented duo, albeit, but he had a rough game.
Yep. Yeah, no, he definitely did. And you're talking about Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimoloau, like you said, they took off in this situation. But DP, let's go ahead and get this performance going. Let's get this appearance going. Coach K, Coach DP, we hopping in the locker room. We handing out game balls. Coming up next.
The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 back in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Again, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 back in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on which players will score a touchdown and how many points each team will score. Why? Simply because it's thrilling. To get in on the action, I'll help you. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, that's FanDuel.com to join today for your chance at $250 back in bonus bets. $250 back in bonus bets at FanDuel.com. Just join today. So make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Start for being our everydayers. Keith, for my game ball, Coach DP's game ball of the week, I'm going right to who you talked about, Keith. Matthew Golden. Like you said, 10 targets, 7 catches, 149, and a touchdown. But it was how dominant he was when the game was on the line. Late in the game, in the fourth quarter, into overtime. Like, you go into, I think it was it might have been the first overtime, where Arizona State and Cam Skattebo, they scored. And it's like, okay, like, now you're, you know what I mean? You gotta come back, you gotta score with them, things of that nature. And it was 3rd and 10, I think, 3rd and 12, because I think the play before that, it was either a run or a pitch play, a quick pass to Quintravion Wisner that was stopped for like a 2 or 3 yard loss. I was like, oh man. They're putting them in 3rd and long with the game on the line. Like, this could be bad, right? If you get the incompletion, now you 4th and long, that's the game, right? And post pattern, good shout out to Quinn Ewers. He checked out of the read. He saw what he needed to see from the defense. They played flat-footed in the secondary on the back end. And Matthew Golden got him over the top, wide open, game-tying touchdown and everything. He also, in the second overtime, got the 2-point conversion. He got a 2-point conversion during the game as well. Like, he just was dominant. They did not have an answer for him. You know what I mean? They didn't know what to do with him, Keith. I feel like they should have doubled him, but then at the same time, it's Texas. You got Gunnar Helm. You got Ryan Wingo. You got Isaiah Bond. You got the running backs. It's hard to double just one guy. But when the game was on the line, Quinn Ewers knew who he needed to target, and that guy was Matthew Golden. Without Matthew Golden, Texas doesn't win this game.
Yeah, it looks like this is a one-man show as far as passing attack. Gunnar Helm, obviously, he jumps in from time to time, but Matthew Golden is definitely the dude. DP, I'm going with Notre Dame defensive line for the game ball, right? You got to give it to them. These guys flat out changed the football game without the edge rushers taking advantage, right, of the offensive tackles, without the defensive linemen, the interior defensive linemen stopping the run. This game probably still going on, and the game is 3-3, right? And nobody's scoring any points, any touchdowns. So I have to give it to the Notre Dame front seven, their rotation, right? I think he's a junior edge rusher, but name is, I get this right, Junior Tua Malaka, right? And then you got RJ Oben over there. Man, these guys just play football. They came out play football, and it was one of those games where I was thinking it right before it happened, because you watched the game unfold. It was one of those games where you like, you know what, it's gonna come down to a big play where one team kind of makes a play to get out 13-3 or like 2 possessions. Whoever could get out to a 2-possession lead first, you know what I'm saying? Like whether it was just 9 points or something like that, didn't even have to be the full 10, was probably going to win this football game. So I give credit to their front seven because they came to play football and they exposed Georgia's front seven. The fact that they needed offensive tackle, offensive line help the entire year because they couldn't even lean on running the football. And I'll say this, it came at a key point because remember the quarterback Gunnar Stockton, he hit what's the speedy wide receiver down the sideline? Arian Smith. I mean, he had a beautiful football. And you're like, he might be about to unlock something, right? Like they might be about to open it up. And I think that's why Kirby Smart decided right before half, like, you know what? We got a minute 28 left. Let's go figure this thing out and see if we can get some momentum. That thing flipped right on his head, right? And then they come out and then they get the special teams touchdown, ball game. There was no recovering from that. And I'll even say this, past that big play, it was just sacks, right? Like every time they tried to open up, it was pressure. Like Gunnar almost got injured, looked like in the same manner that Carson Beck got injured, right? Like getting hit from the backside on his throwing arm, right? And he's going forward and the ball kind of lunging forward too, but the defender hitting his arm backwards. So definitely give credit to Notre Dame front seven. They deserve the game ball. They won that football game.
No, they changed that entire game, Keith, because like you said, Georgia couldn't run it. And then they couldn't pass protect. The left tackle was struggling all night, like the entire game.
It wasn't good.
In this
it was a clear mismatch.
No, legitimately. And just the ability to not just get pressure and get sacks, but they were able to get strip sacks. They were able to just make him uncomfortable. And because when he was comfortable, he was able to hit targets down the field. Mike Bobo was scheming things up again. And I don't know if he should be back as the OC because you still did not try and feature your tight ends. I'm looking on the field at times and I don't see Benjamin Urasek or Oscar Delp. And I'm what are we doing? You know what I mean? Like, why aren't we having our two, like, more seasoned, like you got Lawson Lucky out there, but I think he's like a true sophomore or something like that. Like
he's freshman. And you know how I feel about Oscar Delp. And you could put the same way how I felt about Matthew Golden, right? I watched him. I was like, this dude can be one of the best. Like, I think he has the opportunity to be a top 3 tight end in this draft class. Like, you put Colston Loveland, you put Tyler Warren, and I think Oscar Delp has that type of talent to be right behind them. But when you don't use them, nobody knows.
I think he's going to come back for another year. But they didn't make it easy on the young quarterback from a play calling standpoint. And then also you put your offensive line at risk, like, for this pass rush, and not just a pass rush, but at time, like I think it was like a key 3rd or 4th down where I forget the DC's name for Notre Dame. They light him up. They sent pressure.
Golden. You
know what I mean? Al Golden. They sent pressure. And they got they sent the middle linebacker. They sent 5 to 6 guys, and they got a free runner on the quarterback. And it's like, Well, if that free one isn't there, he probably hits the guy open for a first down, and they keep this drive going. Instead, it's turnover on downs. So that front seven, the way that they were able to play on the front line, mixing in blitz packages, that didn't really see. But I tweeted this out. It wasn't always Carson Beck's fault. Carson Beck took a lot of heat this year for his play, but the receiver, like Dylan Bell, dropped multiple passes in this game.
Oh man, that was another game-changing play. Like we dial it up, get the time, and it hits you in the face mask. I was like, oh man. But Georgia,
and this was going on all season.
Yeah, DP Georgia just had a sputtering game. Like they just wasn't all the way there. Like as they just wasn't all the way there. It was unfortunate. And I'm thinking about it. It was every team, right? I think they said that didn't play that started off slow, right? Oregon started off slow. Georgia had miscues. Oregon had miscues. Boise State had miscues. Yeah, it was every team that had a long break. They didn't come in rolling. Like they
was
were
like 3 weeks off. They had like 2 or 3 weeks off.
Yep, they were not hitting on all cylinders.
It was rough, man. It was rough.
Yeah, it definitely was. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. Every listen is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube. Wherever you listen to podcasts to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers, guys. Listen, have a great weekend. Watch some NFL football. Get ready for the quarterfinals, I think, or whatever it is. Getting ready for the national championship game. We got one more round. We got Penn State versus Notre Dame. Then we got Texas versus Ohio State. We'll preview both of those games and the prospects and matchups to watch on next week. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.